Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place. My name is Andrew Frazier, outsourced CFO and owner of Small Business Like a Pro, where the more you know, the faster you grow. I've worked with over 500 entrepreneurs and business owners one-on-one and taught thousands of people about entrepreneurship and business over the years.
As an author, advisor, and small business thought leader, Andrew Frazier's expertise in business strategy and financial management has helped hundreds of organizations to grow revenue, increase profits, and obtain financing.
Excellent information, especially from Andrew.
Nobody should be defining success for you except for you. And your business, you're choosing to do this as a vehicle to create this level of success and the type of success that you want to have in your life.
He has trained and taught at universities, businesses, and other organizations.
It's incredibly informative, great information.
Andrew breaks it down in a very understandable way, very complex information.
Many entrepreneurs find themselves getting stuck at a point where they can't figure out how to move their business forward. The reason for this is because when you have a business, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. As a business owner, that's the first question you should ask yourself. What is your most important job? What is the most important thing for you to do?
In his book, Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, Andrew outlines the critical path for business growth and the Small Business Pro methodology for continuing to improve your business.
Number one, growing your skills and as a business owner. Number two, growing the structure of your organization.
With technology at our fingertips, social media platforms at our fingertips, and growing your business is a lot easier now than it ever was before. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's more tools, more options. You can do a lot more as an individual. A lot of things you can do with that you could have never done before. Like a lot of people are self-publishing now. Previously, the cost to publish something was very high and you had to go through a publisher, just like in the music business. Mm-hmm. What types and sizes of businesses would benefit most from what we're doing here? What we have is activities and programs for businesses focused at $20 million and below in revenues. The first part is if you don't have a product or service that there's a market of people who are willing to pay for it, how long do you think you'll be in business?
Not long.
Not very long. So that's the first stage. Everybody, just want to thank you again for joining us tonight. My name is Andrew Frazier. I'm going to be sharing some valuable information along with our guest speaker, Michael Dermer. I guess before we get started, just want to, lay out some key things. I know it's been a long day for everybody. I appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to treat your time as valuable and make sure that we share valuable information and respect your time. So definitely we 100% understand that for everybody. So, getting started, really, some of you know me, but not everybody knows me. So what I'd like to do is just say a little bit about who I am, where I'm from, and just to give you a little bit of a feel. And, we'll start from there. Learning how to thrive and not just surviving so you can make more money in your business. Definitely a difficult time for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, but we're going to share some things, some strategies, some ways to look at the world so that you can be more successful and be more prepared to not only survive what's going on now, but to thrive in the aftermath. I'm from beautiful Pittsburgh. Thanks for the Pittsburghers joining the call. Definitely a Steelers fan, and like most Pittsburghers, like the Steelers, one of the things is Pittsburghers tend to be pretty tough. Many may remember the Steel Curtain. Also team-oriented, it's a friendly place. Hopefully, if you haven't been there, you should come check us out. And, definitely that's where I started had an opportunity to grow up and learn a lot of things. So if you ask someone about me or some of my experience, one of the big things is leadership. Having been a naval officer, having held leadership positions on boards, having a mother who was a leader in the community and actually went on to be the first African-American city councilwoman in the Allegheny County area around Pittsburgh. Leadership is one thing that I've learned a lot about, and working with entrepreneurs and business owners, that's something I bring, because as a business owner, you have to be a leader. You cannot run a successful business without being a leader and demonstrating leadership for your team. The thing is, I'm a relationship builder. Over the many years, I've had opportunities to meet some great people, connect with great people, building relationships. And of course, the first and most important relationship is your family. So, in the one picture, I've got my parents with all their grandkids and kids and spouses. And then on the right is me and my wife, Janae. We met at MIT. We've been married almost 30 years now. And we've got 2 kids, Joycelyn and Trey. And actually, my son's graduating from high school this year, and my daughter's graduating from college this year. He's going to go to Temple University outside of Philly. So why should you listen to me? I mean, you got a whole bunch of people out there talking about things, and there's a lot of good people. But first, thanks for being here. But what is the key reason why you should listen to what I have to say and listen to what Michael Dermer has to say today? Number one, business is kind of in my blood. Not sure if you've seen Better Off Dead, but this is the paper boy from Better Off Dead. And that was actually my first job as a paper boy, delivering papers with my brother starting in 4th grade. So having business early on in life experiences was important. My grandfather also had a dry cleaning business, and the business is now, passed it on to his son and now his grandson. And I think they just celebrated 96 years. So 96 years in business with the dry cleaners, which is great. In addition, my mom sold life insurance and real estate, which are both businesses, and got to help her and see the experience that she had. And then in college, I had a business, invested in real estate later on, and currently have my businesses as well. So, definitely have business and entrepreneurial experience. Number 2, I'm an expert coach and consultant. I've worked with over 500 entrepreneurs and business owners one-on-one, and really help them to grow their business and be more successful. So enjoy working with people, developing people, helping to bring out of them the best of what they can do for their business. I also do speaking, training, teaching, worked with universities, worked with different organizations. And probably the biggest thing is I love teaching, educating people about business. I wrote my book. I work with the SBDC, done work with Rutgers, done work with Farley Dickinson University, taught as an adjunct at Berkeley College and at Southern New Hampshire. So, and then I do work as an outsourced CFO for many manufacturing companies through the New Jersey Manufacturing Experience Program. One thing that I found is the small business owner's greatest fear many times is numbers. And as a result, a lot of times the numbers aren't in order, or if they are, even so, the owner, the CFO, a lot of times doesn't understand fully what the numbers tell you and how important they are to not just paying your taxes and staying on track with regulations, but you can use them to manage your business and understand your business and make better decisions for your business going forward. So being able to work as an outsourced CFO, I've gotten people millions, tens of millions of dollars in financing, help cash flow issues, and a lot of other challenges that businesses and people have had. In addition, I'm an author. wrote my first book, Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, which really outlines the path to create a sustainable business that can run without you. But the first half of the book is called What You Don't Know Can Hurt You, because there's so many things that entrepreneurs and small business owners need to know, but they can't possibly know all of them. So working with so many people, you start to see patterns and where there are challenges and try to communicate those in a clear way so that business owners and entrepreneurs or prospective entrepreneurs can not only benefit from their perspective, but can benefit from my perspective and experience, and hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that they may run into. I also helped create the Power Breakfast about 10 years ago, which is an event where we really a convening of entrepreneurs and business owners in the Newark area, northern New Jersey. And over the years, we've had over 1,000 people participate in the Power Breakfast events. And it's led to tens of millions of dollars in financing, as well as led to tens of millions of dollars in economic development. So very proud of it. We've had so many great people participate, help. Our speaker today, Michael Dermer, he actually was a Power Breakfast speaker several years ago for me. And then last year, we had our first Power Breakfast in Pittsburgh, and he was a featured guest speaker in Pittsburgh. Both times he was great, and I'm glad and excited that you're going to be able to hear from him tonight. One of the most exciting things I've worked on, and because I love teaching, training, and development, we've launched a Small Business Pro University, which is really a online learning platform for entrepreneurs and small business owners, where we take key topics and information that can be valuable to them. And I really love this online platform because you can do multimedia. So we use video, we use audio, images, we have, you're able to do tests, assignments, collaboration. So really excited about Small Business Pro University. We've got some courses there. We're going to continue to develop more. I have other business experts who are collaborating with me on courses and actually being able to put their courses up there as well. So it's going to be a great platform for business owners to continue to learn and develop their skills and do it at their own pace, because I know you're busy. I'm busy too. And, sometimes the time you have is, in the middle of the night or early in the morning or whatever, but it's an opportunity to really have access to information and knowledge and learnings that you can benefit and helping to grow your business. So one thing that I've started doing a little bit more of is speaking, and especially since having the book, spoken a lot more and been interviewed a lot more. So had a chance to be in the media, had great opportunity to be interviewed by Dale Caldwell on Family Business World as a small business panelist on Steve Adubado's think tank, and many others. So definitely enjoyed participating in media. And one other thing is I've been writing articles. I have working with Barry Cohen, who I work with for writing my book and helps with PR and other things. And he's helped me to be able to get articles published in some great places. So excited about that, going to continue to communicate about business. And then finally, I've worked with, many, many clients. These are just a few, but, this gives you a little bit of a feel for, my experience, why you might think that I might be able to be helpful, and, and really how I help people is, focus on their business strategy and financial management to maximize the value of their business, to grow their revenues, increase their profits, and obtain financing. So enough about me. Let's talk about what's going on. This is kind of crazy time, and appreciate you taking time, because I know there's a lot going on around you, but wanted to provide something valuable and especially in the current environment, especially with what's going on with small businesses. We've got the coronavirus. I don't think I've been out of the house more than 7 times in the last 3 months. And we don't really know where it's going. It's exciting that we're opening back up, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. So, that already, just the health crisis adds a lot of stress and tension, but it's also changed the whole way everybody's life, probably on the whole world, and changed the way that we're doing business, impacted small businesses significantly. But not only that, we're facing a financial crisis because a lot of people are out of work, because GDP is down and output's down and businesses are closed. That's putting a lot of stress on the financial side as well. So, and a lot of times that's us. I'm sure everybody knows someone who's been affected from an employment standpoint, from a business ownership standpoint, from a investment savings standpoint. There's a lot going on, and that's creating additional stress. And then in the last couple weeks, there's even a human rights crisis. Something that's been festering for a long time is really come to life, and that's another thing that's going on this week. And every day things are changing, something new, but it's addressing a lot of things that are going on. So we've got a lot of crises out there, but challenges bring opportunity. And really what we're here to talk about is we have challenges, but we have a lot of opportunities. A lot of business owners are doing well, but some are not doing well, and some are not going to make it. So what we're doing tonight is sharing, from Michael Dermer, a key person who's really been through this situation before successfully, wrote a book about it, communicated it through The Lonely Entrepreneur, and then built a whole system and a learning platform for business owners so they can take advantage of what he learned. And, I think it's great. I've known him for several years now, and, it's a testament a little bit to the power of LinkedIn, because if it wasn't for LinkedIn, we'd have never met. I remember Michael was just launching his book, and I saw that through LinkedIn, and I was like, that looks pretty cool. Let me reach out to him. So we reached out and connected. He reached back out and talked to him about his book, want to learn more. I let him know that we're doing the Power Breakfast events, and he was only in New York across the river. I said, would love you to come check one out and possibly be a future speaker. So he actually came out to Newark, New Jersey, and came, participated, enjoyed it, and was willing to come out and speak. So we brought him out as a featured guest speaker, and he was tremendous. And over the years, he's continued to develop his business, his organization, other organizations. One of the big things is, like we talked about, these challenges bring opportunity, but the key is you have to understand how to unlock the opportunity. You have to be proactive about how you're going to move forward, and you have to plan and strategize, because there's different trends and other things affecting your business. And in this case, many of these trends are going to be ongoing, and the way we do business is going to be different. So as a small business, you have many disadvantages. You have less money than most businesses. You have less resources many times, but what you do have is the ability to be creative and be nimble. So without further ado, would love to turn it over to Mr. Michael Dermer, and look forward to hearing about your story and things that you feel that would be valuable to other entrepreneurs and business owners.
Sure. First of all, again, Andrew, it's always a pleasure to be with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to try to help in any way that I can. I'll give you a little bit of background on me, and really try to talk a little bit about, kind of what I think are the most important skills that entrepreneurs need in this day and age, especially given what's going on kind of before and after, the crisis. And Andrew, as you also mentioned, you'll hear a little bit about my story and some free resources that we'll make available to everybody. So again, thank you very much for having me. A little of my background, I started out, grew up in central New Jersey, and after law school, started out as a mergers and acquisitions lawyer in New York City. But I always had a desire to start a business, and I stumbled upon and started what got to be known as the first company in the US to reward people for being healthy. It was a healthcare technology company. And like one of those random events, I was out to dinner one night. I was a corporate lawyer, didn't know anything about healthcare. And one of the women at dinner said, do you know that for every 10 pregnant women that don't follow their prenatal care, it costs the healthcare system $1 million? And I said, well, wait a minute, why wouldn't you just pay these women like $10,000 each? And that just, it was, as they said, the beginning of the end, started to think, wow, if we could really reward people like they did in credit card programs and hotel and airline programs to take healthy behaviors, couldn't the system save a lot of money? Started that business in the early 2000s, built it up. In the first 5 years of the company, it was incredibly lean. Not only was rewarding people for being healthy non-existent, it was offensive. We would go to health plans and health systems and say, you should do this. And they said, we are never going to pay people to do things that they should be doing. So like a lot of the entrepreneurs on your phone call, right, who've heard those things, we said, okay. And obviously we felt like at some point, like any other consumer industry, people would obviously have to reward people. From 2006 to 2008, we grew like crazy. Venture capital backed at that point. In 2008, had grown the company to about 500 employees, and we had, made it. And we're trying to decide, are we going to sell the company or trying to go public, do all this stuff. And literally almost got destroyed overnight by the financial crisis of 2008. All of our customers were the largest companies in America. General Motors, big banks. As people on this call know, you fight so long and so hard to get these large customers. And we had our platform as a technology platform that looked a lot like your credit card loyalty program, except that we were rewarding healthy behaviors. So we spent all this time integrating with large companies and did large software deals. So when they went down, everybody remembers what happened to General Motors in 2008. We almost went down with them. So our company literally got cut in half overnight. Spent the next 3 years battling and scrapping and clawing. We're fortunate enough through the creativity, a lot of really smart people came out the other end. And then when the financial crisis had subsided a little bit, everybody was interested in healthcare, got approached by some investment bankers, and it got bought. It was an incredibly wild ride, and it worked out great for everybody involved. And then afterwards, Andrew, the story, I was literally just helping people in New York City for fun. After I had sold my business, kind of checking out for a little bit. And one of them said to me, being an entrepreneur is really lonely. And I was like, wow, that's really a thing. I mentioned it to a friend, and he dragged me into a Starbucks in Union Square in New York City. And he goes, watch this. And he yelled in a coffee shop, who here is a lonely entrepreneur? And everybody raised their hand. And that was it. The bug bit me again. And I thought, what better way to spend your days than to help other entrepreneurs turn their passion into success. And as you said, Andrew, passion and grit and a good idea is not good anymore. You have to develop all of these skills. And I thought I would spend, kind of just a little bit of time, talking about what a couple of those skills are. As you can imagine, what's going on right now for all of us is very near and dear to what happened to us in 2008. In fact, it was, largely the genesis of the lonely entrepreneur. Really us waking up every single day. None of the people on my team have to really work. They're all people that have been fortunate enough to have successes in their lives, and we just want to try to help. And when we think about what happened in 2008 and the way that things seem right now, I know that sitting there, at Saturday night at 2:00 in the morning and looking at the numbers just didn't work. You had to turn $1 into 10. And as Andrew, I think you briefly mentioned, the one thing that we as entrepreneurs, we lack capital, we lack resources, but we don't lack the ability to think differently. And with what's going on right now and what's going to happen after kind of COVID subsides a little bit, is going to kind of test our entrepreneurial creativity, because the way the world existed before is not going to be the way the world existed afterwards. Andrew, I'll tell you a really quick story. Back in 2008, one of the things we did to reward people for healthy behavior was give them gift cards. So a woman got a mammogram, somebody completed a health risk assessment, whatever it may be, and they might say, okay, I want a $25 gift certificate to Barnes & Noble. And we used to pay Barnes & Noble something like, 80 cents on the dollar. So we'd pay $80 for a $100 gift card, and that was part of our margin. And we literally, after our revenue got cut in half, we literally had, I think, $16 million of liability to actually fund these gift cards to ship them out the door to all the people that had earned them. And because of our dramatic impact on revenue, we didn't have that cash. We literally, I say it, Andrew, facetiously, we had to turn $1 into 10. We actually did. And so you're like, okay, we're staring at a $15 million liability. What do you do? So we went to Barnes & Noble and said, listen, we really should pay a lot less than $80 because, people aren't shopping right now. Everybody's kind of hunkering down. And if we can get more people in your store, they'd really like that. And they said no. And this was, Barnes & Noble, Applebee's, just think of every retailer. So we literally went not too far, Andrew, from where you are in Newark, in northern New Jersey, where my office was in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. And we literally went to the local Applebee's and said, we want to buy $100,000 of gift cards from you. And like, used car salesmen, they would run in the back and have a quick conversation. Needless to say, we paid 10 cents, basically $10 for a $100 gift card. So we turned our liability from 80 out of 100, $80 to get $100 to $10 to get $100, and dramatically changed the path of our company. And we did that with 50 retailers. We never told Barnes & Noble corporate, and we probably would have got our hands slapped. And I told my team, the world is not going to wait. Don't kill anybody, don't break any laws, but you've got to drive, the wrong way down a one-way street. And those are crisis times, and those are some of the times that we face today. So we've been there. There were many, many times where, if I was being honest with myself, that the numbers just didn't work. And we were very fortunate to not only make it out the other end, but sell the company. And now we're probably considered the founders of that health rewards industry. So now, so as you all know, and you probably experienced this, anytime somebody says something to you like, hey, are you gonna be working on Columbus Day? We all just kind of laugh, and we're like, you guys don't get it. Like, what do you mean work on Columbus Day? Of course we're working on Columbus Day. And you're like, oh, that person's not an entrepreneur, right? And so, Andrew, I know your audience and the time we've spent together, people, you live and breathe this. You talk about it over dinner with your husbands and wives. So now when I take a step back and I go, okay, we sit here in 2020, what are the skills that we all need to try to be successful, especially in the light of what's going on? I'm going to talk a little bit about going forward, but certainly there's a lot to be said just about what's had to happen in the last couple kind of weeks and months. And Andrew, as you know, we created this free entrepreneur survival guide, which is a free resource that, as we know probably more than we like to care to say about going through a crisis. So if anybody goes to lonelyentrepreneur.com, you'll see a big blue button that says 2020 Survival Guide. Feel free to use it. It's free to everybody, and pass it along to your friends and family who need it. That really gets into managing cash and expenses and things like that. But Andrew, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the skills that we need going forward, especially when it comes to revenue, right? Everybody kind of says, okay, everybody has to pivot. And, okay, so people take, offline businesses and they turn them online. People are trying to figure out how to make a restaurant online, and all those types of things. But I want to take a step back and say, let's think about what it means to really pivot. What does it really mean to create new revenue strategies that are going to work in a post-COVID world? And I am not ignoring in any way, shape, or form what you have to do with cash, what you have to do with expenses, how you have to negotiate with your landlord and your vendors, and all those types of things. So those absolutely are essential things. But when I think about what it's going to take to compete, think about it. Before COVID, we all felt like there were tons of competitors in anything that we did. Could be a local nail salon, could be a PR firm, whatever it may be. But not only were there tons of competitors, but most buyers, consumer buyers, corporate buyers, said, I can get almost anything for free, right? Let's say you're shopping for a PR firm. Don't you have the impression that someone would always do it kind of cheaper for you? And so we're all faced with all of this competition, and we're faced with the fact that somebody's going to do this for free. And as you can imagine, with COVID, that's even more true, right? There are so many more people that unfortunately have been laid off, out of work. And so if before there were 1 million PR consultants, now there's 5 million. And each of them are going to be more responsible for, or sorry, more likely to, offer their services for less and less and less. So if that's the backdrop that we live in, okay, and again, I'm not ignoring the fact that a lot of us on this phone might be going, well, wait a minute, I just can't pay the bill next month. I understand. But eventually, we've got to get to these revenue strategies. So what do we believe are the most critical things you do when you have competitors everywhere and everybody's willing to give stuff away for free? Like, you could probably go into a retail store right now and buy a dress and not even buy it and say, you know what, I just want to try it for a little bit. And there's gonna be some retailer that let you do that right now. Okay, so I'm exaggerating a little bit, but as we as leaders think about it and we say, okay, how do I compete with all that competition and with free? So a couple of different things, techniques and skills. First is what we call finding a playground where nobody else is playing, right? In this day and age, to get somebody to pay attention to you and actually compare the differences between solution A or solution B or service A or service B is almost impossible. Think about when we are buyers. Think about when somebody presents something to us. What does it take for us to actually pay attention to something? We probably, any of us, could have $1 million in an email in our inbox, and we probably would ignore it, right? People aren't paying attention to the difference between this and the difference between that. So, and remember, we lack capital and resources. Like, there's other bigger players out there. What do I mean by finding a playground where nobody else is playing? You have to find a spot, a pocket, right? An arena, a market in which you're the only game in town, right? Where you're defining the rules. Because remember, if we play by everybody else's rules, we lose because we have less money and less capital. Think about how many times somebody will say, well, I'm going to start a PR firm. And the advice from your friends and colleagues will be, okay, great. There's a PR convention at the Jacob Javits Center next month. You should go. That's the last place you should go. Like, why would you go where everybody else is, right? So you have to try to find this playground where nobody else is playing. So I'll give you some examples. Think about my old business, rewarding people for being healthy. There were tons and tons and tons of credit card and airline and hotel loyalty programs that had the idea of simple concept. You take some behavior, like buying a pair of shoes or flying on a plane, and you get points and you use that points for stuff, right? That technology existed. The companies that ran those big loyalty programs, as you can imagine, are multi-billion-dollar companies. All we did was go in and do healthcare, right? We just found a playground where nobody else is playing. When you do that, you define the rules, right? You define what the pricing should be, right? And don't get me wrong, finding those playgrounds is easier said than done, right? But when you do find that playground and you feel like you're winning that playground, you get to define why people buy and why people don't buy. Okay, give you another example, Starbucks. If you really think about Starbucks is a really silly idea. Take you back to the beginning of Starbucks. This is what they said. There's coffee everywhere in a place like New York City where I live. There's coffee every 2 blocks, pretty good. And it costs $2. right? And this is what Starbucks said. We're going to put a coffee shop on every corner. We're going to charge $4. And oh, by the way, if we don't sell any coffee, we're stuck with literally billions of dollars of real estate. And you're like, boy, that sounds silly. But what did they do? They created a community. They said, if you remember in the beginning, it's a little different now. Come here, sit here, meet your friends here, meet your business colleagues here. Don't even buy coffee, just hang out, right? This is many years ago, right? And if any of you knew the story of McDonald's, McDonald's used to actually make the seats uncomfortable so people would leave quicker. Starbucks just said, come here and hang out. And they created a community in a highly, highly competitive market, okay? No different than we created health reward programs. So when you think about your playground, I mean, how many times do you wake up and say, hey, I'm doing what I'm doing, but I have someone over here that's cheaper and there's lots of competitors. You really have to hone in and find your playground, right? I'll give you another example. Let's say I said, a fashion designer, and I said, I've designed a red dress, right? And you go to Macy's and you say, Macy's, I got this amazing red dress. What is Macy's likely going to say? We have plenty of red dresses, right? We don't need your red dress. But what if you took that same red dress and you made it part of a personal shopping experience for every new investment banker and law firm that started in a firm in New York City? You might be the only red dress there, okay? So if you find your playground, right, which is incredibly difficult to do, once you find it, you feel like you define the rules, right? You define the past, you define the pricing, you set traps for competitors, right, where they don't know what to do. So first is finding a playground where nobody else is playing. Second is you have to pick a criteria where you win, right? The best example of this is in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Budweiser ran a commercial, and it's a medieval times commercial where you have a carriage and a horse, and they've got these big barrels, and they kind of gallop up. These knights gallop up to the Budweiser castle, and they knock on the big door, and a soldier comes out and says, "How can I help you?" And the people in the carriage say, "I'm here to deliver a barrel of corn syrup to Budweiser." And the soldier says, "Nope, you must have this wrong. We don't use corn syrup at Budweiser. You really need to gallop down the road to the Coors Light or the Miller Lite facility." Now, I don't know about you, but did any of you know that beer even had corn syrup? I didn't. Did you ever buy or not buy beer because it had corn syrup? I certainly didn't. Budweiser just picked a criteria where they win. And then all of a sudden, what happened the next day? Miller Lite and Coors Light sued Budweiser, right, about corn syrup, which is, by the way, is exactly what Budweiser wanted, right? Because now all of a sudden corn syrup, a criteria they win on, became the criteria for why you buy beer. Now, I know we say, okay, well, these are big companies. There's nothing more competitive than domestic beer, where you have to spend $100 million on advertising just to get on the ride, okay? So pick a criteria by which you win, okay? And take that criteria and make it and convince your buyers that's the criteria for buying. Remember, nobody ever bought beer before because it did or didn't have corn syrup, okay? And lastly, so find a playground nobody else is playing. Secondly is pick a criteria where you win, right? And third is what I'm gonna call know-how, right? You have to make your buyers believe that, not just believe, but truly trust that you know something that they better need to know, right? So for example, in my old business, if somebody today started a business doing rewards for healthcare, and they said, Michael, I want you to go sell against them, I would be like, you cannot do these three things. And they'd be like, what are these three things? You'd be like, well, that's why you hire us, okay? You have to show them that you have a knowledge that they will never have. Think of this, if we went out for a run, right, in our neighborhood, and we had a colleague stay over. Andrew, had the good fortune to stay at your house in Pittsburgh, right? And let's say I said, Andrew, hey, I'm going to go for a jog, right? And Andrew, you said to me, well, hey, Michael, when you make I'm going to get the streets wrong, of course. When you make a left on Main Street, right? Be careful right there because there's a pothole, right? And I would be like, I need Andrew. Because if I don't have Andrew, I'm going to step in potholes, right? And potholes for us entrepreneurs is time, money, maxing out credit cards, all that kind of stuff, right? So demonstrating a know-how that they don't have. Think about it, everyone. Every single person says, this is the test that we use. Imagine if you were dropped here from another planet and you started a service, a PR firm. What would your website say? It would say, great clients, we get your name in the Wall Street Journal, everybody loves us, right? Everybody says that, right? And now you have everybody willing to pay, something or to offer something for free. But if I don't know about that pothole, and if I walk out of that room and like, wow, I didn't know that. So I'll give you an example. We did a session for a series of PR executives. These are international travel PR executives. These people that basically get PR all over the world, will know a lot about international travel. And we said the following. We said, do you know that there's a building called the Burj Khalifa. The Burj Khalifa is the largest building in the world. It's in Dubai. We said, now these are really, really smart people that know a lot more about PR than certainly I do. And we said, do you realize that on the 7th floor of this huge building, the Burj Khalifa, which has a hotel there, no Americans are allowed to stay there? And everybody in the room kind of stopped. Remember, these are people that are supposed to know international travel. And they started kind of talking back and forth and whispering back and forth. And somebody said, this is why, and this is why, and this is why. And I said, and they're like, why is that? What is it? And I said, I just made that up. It's not true. But for a minute, right, you thought that I knew something that, wow, I need this guy because I didn't know that. And I'm going to go back to my PR client and I'm going to send them to Dubai and I'm going to get it wrong. Okay. And I don't mean to be facetious about it. I don't mean to say you're disingenuous or anything like that. But again, if you have competition from everywhere and your competitors are going to sell something for free, and that's your perspective, okay, then you need to bring a know-how that they didn't have. If you're a retail, right, personal shopper and somebody comes in your store, right, and you said, I would never wear that dress with those shoes because that's not the trend, and it's not the trend because of what's happening here in Y and Z. That woman or that woman would be like, oh man, it's not just about a dress, it's what that person knows. Okay, so I don't want to take, Andrew, I don't want to take too much time of the group, but again, when we think about coming out of this and we think about all the competitors, think about finding your playground, think about defining a criteria where you win, even if it's a silly one, right? And thirdly, it is this know-how that specifically makes a difference. And I'll give you one final analogy, Andrew, and then I'll shut up and take some questions. My cousin David was the mayor of Miami Beach, Florida, and his father was mayor of Miami Beach in the 1970s. David was not running for office. He was sitting in his office one day and he gets a phone call and he says, listen, the candidate for mayor in our party just had a big scandal and he has to drop out. And we'd like you to run. There's only a month left in the election. We'd like you to run. People know your father's name. You're going to get killed because you're going up against a very well-financed and polished state senator from Florida, from Tallahassee. But it'll be great for your visibility and it'll be great and we'll support you and it'll be good for everyone. So my cousin said, sure. And they had a debate and they went into the debate and the polls said, 60% for the state senator and 5% for my cousin David, who nobody knew that he's even running. And they said to my cousin David, they said, so tell us what would be on your agenda. And he said something to the effect of, listen, I lived in Miami Beach my whole life. I'm a resident. I haven't been a politician my whole life, but I know what I would do is the first thing I would do is fix the pothole on 5th and Collins. For any of you that have been to Miami Beach, Collins Avenue is the main drag there. And I said, okay, great. And then they turned to this very polished state senator that looked like, Barbara Bush, like very put together and polished. And they said, so Senator, what would your agenda be? How do you respond to what Mr. Dermer said? And she said, not only are we going to fix the pothole on Fifth and Collins, we're going to fix every pothole and every this and every that, typical political answer. And they went back to my cousin David and they said, David, what's your response? And he said, there is no pothole on Fifth and Collins. And the next day, the polls were 50-50, right? All David did was demonstrate a know-how, right? That against a much more well-financed politician, a much more polished politician, that he was able to win, and he ended up winning the election. So again, I'll go back to Andrew, what you said before. We lack money, we lack resources. We do not lack the ability to think differently. And I know people are hurting right now and they're really experiencing very, very difficult times and have a tough time thinking about the future. But ultimately, this is going to come down to how do we generate revenue in a post-COVID environment. And I hope these are techniques that will help people. Andrew, I just wanted to mention again the free entrepreneur survival guide, which gets into, what do you actually have to do kind of in a crisis with cash and expenses and paycheck protection program. Anybody can go to lonelyentrepreneur.com and there's a big blue button on top that says 2020 survival guide, and it's free to anybody who wants to take advantage of it. So happy to take questions, and thank you for having me again. Okay,
Great. Thanks, Michael. I definitely always love to hear you share about what you're doing and sharing with the audience here. Your resource, I've checked it out when you first put it out, and it's outstanding. Like, a lot of people have like a page or two. I think it's like 30 pages or something, but it's great information. And in the follow-up email, we're going to share information about that. So you'll get a link so you can go straight to it, which is great. And one of the things, first, anyone who's here, please feel free to type any questions in the chat, and I'll make sure to ask them for Michael. And always helpful to find out how entrepreneurs make it, how they're able to be successful. But what was the hardest thing for you when you went through that, and what was the turning point?
It's interesting, Andrew. I think the biggest challenge that existed then, which probably is the same now, is you didn't know what the bottom was, right? You didn't know when it was going to end, and you didn't know, what, if somebody said this will go on for a year and a half, you could plan. And back then, like the way it feels right now, you just didn't know. So you didn't know, how to actually say, okay, how do I actually build a plan? Like in the Entrepreneur Survival Guide, we talk all about the plan you have to build, and you have you have revenue pieces and expenses pieces and cash pieces. And so if something goes on, if something goes on for a year, right, you can plan that way. You can say, this is what I need to do with employees and expenses and all stuff. If somebody says it's going to go on forever, you'd be like, that's a different deal. And if you remember then, a little bit like now, every day another Bear Stearns went down back then. Someone would be like, oh, by the way, GE can't pay the bills. And you're like, what? And now this was already happening with COVID, and then with the tragedies that happened in Minnesota and all the things that have followed from that. Now there's another element that are affecting small businesses in cities and towns all over the place. So I think that was the hardest part. What you have to do, Andrew, either way, it doesn't matter. You have to plan. I know for me, we always say, don't spend any time on the emotional part. That doesn't get you anywhere. Like doom and gloom, what's going to happen, what if, doesn't make any difference, right? You got to start to build your plan and execute it, because you're going to need all your energy towards that. There's a really great scene, if anybody have ever seen the movie Apollo 13, where the spaceship is damaged and they're trying to make their way back into the atmosphere. And they're sitting there with Tom Hanks and they're working on all this stuff. And Kevin Bacon's character, who's like the co-pilot, says, what if this goes wrong? 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 And Tom Hanks says, listen, we need 1,000 things to go right in order, and we're on number 7. Work the problem. And that's a discipline that everybody needs to have. And so back then, if I sat there and did the math, Andrew, every day, didn't work. So not knowing where it was going to go, you still had to basically make your best guess. My board asked me one time, I had a pretty sophisticated board. My board said to me, what do you think the worst case scenario is? Now remember, all of our clients were the biggest companies in America. I said, honestly, worst case is zero, like no revenue from 60 million. So, I think that you've just got to basically use your best guess. I know for me, once you kind of turn to, okay, how do I put it into a plan? You kind of get over I have uncertainty. You just kind of get used to it.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And, a couple more questions. We've got a question for Corinthia, from Corinthia. Hopefully I'm not messing up your name. How did you come up with the three things, and how did you figure them out?
I think that too many times, Corinthia, people just kind of get in line of other things, and we talk about things like your, unique selling proposition. We've all, heard that. But what people, I think, fail to realize, even pre-COVID, is that people don't pay attention. Like, people are not paying attention between the difference between this and the difference between that, right? Think about us as buyers, right? We're buyers and we barely pay attention to these things. And so when you take a step back, you ask yourself, not how is it done today? You ask yourself, what does it actually mean to win? Like, how do I actually win when everybody has more money, right? I've got competitors everywhere, and people are willing to do it for free. Like, anybody that says just use the same techniques that anybody else is using, I don't know how that works, because there's a PR consultant with more money and more clients, right? So what is it that drives them? And then you start to kind of call out, you go, okay, well, if I owned a pocket, right? Like, if I put another Spanish restaurant in Newark, maybe no big deal. If I put a Spanish restaurant in Nashville, I don't know, maybe a big deal, right? So okay, I got to find a pocket where nobody else is. As far as the criteria goes, we just have always said, if you define it on everybody else's rules, right? Like if you went into, Andrew, I'll use Newark. If you went into Newark, right, and the speed limit was 90, right? It's a different deal, right? It's a different ecosystem. And so if you define the speed limit in your town, in your playground, right, then people follow you, right? So when we went into healthcare, there was all these big companies coming behind us. We were basically setting traps for them. We're saying, you got to do these three things, right? And as far as the knowledge goes, listen, anybody that competes on price will lose, right? I mean, I'm over exaggerating a little bit. So when you say someone's willing to give it away for free, which a lot of people are, think about it. You get these services, they'll send you 100 pieces of clothing to your house for nothing, and you pick the ones you want and send them back, right? And you don't pay for anything unless you want it. It's basically free, right? Now you got to buy the shirt or the dress when ultimately you buy it. But who would have ever thought that could happen? So if you're competing against free, what wins, right? What wins is that I send you clothes that look great on me, right? Because you have some type of know-how. So these things are this is more chess than checkers, right? Like, this is a level of thinking that really requires you to put your best people around you, your advisors around you, and really brainstorm. And we've just found that these three things, if you can really think through them and think more deeply about, and if you're forced to do that as a result of what's going on right now, they're the ones that say, I don't care how much competition I have. I don't care if everybody gives it away for free. If I have a playground, or if I have a criteria I win by, or if I have know-how that they don't have, go ahead. I would go into a meeting and say, we're not the cheapest. If you're looking for the cheapest, we're the wrong ones. But like we said in the health rewards business, Andrew, we created this thing called the 7 Deadly Sins. It was a white paper that said, these are the 7 things you absolutely cannot do. And there were things that we won on. And so our customers would start asking our competitors, do you do this? And they had never heard of it before, because it was our 90 mile an hour speed limit.
Okay. So, no, that's great. And you make some great points. And one thing I always tell business owners, and I think you're right, that you can't compete on price and win, especially as a small business owner, because you don't have the resources. And, you think about it, but if you break it down, if you're competing on price, you have the lowest price. You're small, so you're buying small quantities, so you're paying the most for it. So your margins are getting squeezed by that. And so you're not making any money, which is right down the road. And that's why I always focus on the numbers first, because the numbers will tell me and tell you how your business is doing. Are you competing effectively? Can you make money doing what you're doing? And what types of adjustments do you need to make your business more successful? So definitely that's key. Another question that we had is, basically you mentioned how creativity is important. And I think this is from Arthur. How do you ignite creativity within yourself and your team?
I'm a big believer that for anything that is a quote unquote priority, you have to create process around it. And it sounds very uncreative. But so for example, if we decide that building our website is a priority, if we decide finding our playground is a priority, you have to build a process around it to create your best thought and your most consistent thought. So what does that mean? That means, hey, we're going to redefine our revenue. I'm going to run a process every Tuesday for an hour. I'm going to bring together my advisors that think the best, my employees, and during that hour, we're going to think outside the box. We're going to drive down the one-way street. We're going to in that hour. So you need a process, and that hour should happen every week or twice a week or whatever it is. That process is what enables the creativity. Think of it this way: if you go to work, if you drive to work, let's say you commute to work and you drive to work the same way every day, right? You kind of get to know what time you should not be at this intersection and how the weather affects everything and how the traffic affects everything. And within that process, that regular process, you learn that creativity. Okay, I don't want to be here at 9:15. I don't want to be here at 8:15. If it's snowing, I want to do this a different way. But it's only by doing that repeatedly, right, that it works. And the same thing works with creativity. Put it in a process, put your best thought around not just the people that work for you. Bring in outside advisors. Say to somebody, hey, man, I know I'm not paying you, but hey, could you hang out for an hour once a week and brainstorm and bring a different perspective? That consistency of thought around an area, because remember, you have to think more deeply about it. It doesn't, rewarding people for being healthy doesn't just jump off the page, right? You have to think about it. But mine was a little different because it just happened. But I think run a process, bring your best talent, and make finding a playground or whatever of the techniques you want to use to be a priority.
Okay, excellent. And definitely one thing that a lot of businesses are brick and mortar, and a lot of them are having the biggest challenges because they either can't open or they can open partially. And now that we're getting ready to reopen, there's different standards. So restaurants can't be packed and full the way you used to. And that's hurting people's business models. So, what types of things do you think of, or should they be looking at and in terms of moving forward with what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge for places like restaurants. I know, for example, there's a home builder that we were working with, and you're like, okay, who's building a home? And we had them completely shift to building home offices, which everybody needs now, right? So you have to skirt around. I think with respect to the physical locations, one of the challenges is, if pre-COVID, 50% of the economy was online, and then now during this, basically everything online that could be on is online, right? So 80%. The other 20% that has to come back is the things that absolutely require, physical interaction. I think what you're going to find is let's say you make amazing Spanish food. You're going to find that a small kitchen and different types of distribution, prepackaged meals that you deliver, right? You've got to hone in on the things that you do really, really great, and almost say to yourself the following: if I couldn't have a retail store, if I couldn't have my restaurant, right, how would my products and services win? Right? Not even if I can have, social distancing and half the people in my restaurant that I had before, but what if I couldn't actually have it? What would I need to do? Would I need to market differently? Would I have to cut down on the number of items that I had and really focus on a few and get them in the right hands and market them differently and stuff like that. I think, for any of you, we've been involved with a couple of the large restaurant chains. The numbers don't work, right? Having 30% capacity and things like that is hard. I know what people are doing is basically becoming restaurants that are open a lot longer, right? Which doesn't make it, easier. But I also think, I kind of think of extremes, like what happens if you couldn't ever physically open again? What would you do? How would you sell your product and service? So it requires you to cut it down, think of different distribution channels, and really try to align the things where you win. There's no magic answer to that. But I just think that they're, going back into a situation where you have to kind of social distance and be apart is going to be really tough. So you almost have to rethink the model. It's almost easier. Sometimes it's a little bit easier now to actually start a new business right now than it is to work on an existing structure, because you have existing agreements and rents and all that stuff. The one thing I would say is you need to go to your landlords and say, listen, you can kick me out and I can default, but at the end of the day, you're not getting another tenant in this environment. So you got to work with me, and I'll give you a percentage of my sales. And if my expenses were 10 before, I got to make them 4, because if my revenue was 12, my revenue is going to be 6. So I can still make the same 2. But I've got to be able to rework my cost structure. So I don't mean to go through this quickly. There's a lot to it. But again, creativity is going to be a big part of it.
Right. And exactly, what you said earlier was everything's negotiable.
Yeah.
Everything's always negotiable, but now it's even more negotiable. So you can make those types of deals.
Yeah.
Now's a time where you can barter, barter for services, connections, because not everybody has the money to fully pay, but you can trade value for value. And
Yep.
that's really what business is about, is creating value and figuring out going forward, how are you going to create value? So, so no, this is great. Got a question from Nick, but actually I'm going to answer that for you a little bit down the road, because we got a few more things that we're going to add for the end. But this has been great, Michael. Thank you for joining us and sharing, and you're full of wisdom, experience, and definitely it's great that you want to help entrepreneurs, help business owners, give them the knowledge and the resources that could be beneficial for you. And look forward to continuing to collaborate with you, supporting you as you're always supporting me as well. And we'll be able to make a difference for business owners all over. So
yeah, well, thank you, Andrew, for having me. I'm not proud of the fact that I know a lot about the company almost collapsing. So, but if there's it's not a badge of honor I wear proudly, but I've been there, and I'm very empathetic to what's going on. And if there's anything we can do to help, and including the free survival guide, and anything we can do to help your folks, we're happy to do it. So thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Thank you as well.
My pleasure.
The first question is, why are we here? Really what it's all about is learning to thrive. What can we do to thrive in this environment? And, how can we get the support that we need to do that? As we talked about, challenges bring opportunity, but how do you find the opportunity? Where you go? One of the first things you want to look at is trends. What things are changing. When they talk about a business and what's successful, successful business is built around solving problems, and solving problems based on people's needs, wants, and desires. So that's the first place that you want to look, is how do we figure out where the needs, wants, and desires are shifting? Are these temporary shifts? Are these permanent shifts? What's going on? Because that's where there's going to be opportunity, and there's going to be positive shifts and there's going to be negative shifts. So unfortunately, with challenge comes opportunity, but also there's winners and losers. And a lot of times certain business models are going to no longer work. So it's better to be proactive and look at your business model, look at how you might want to adjust and figure out what's the best way to move forward. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, at this point, there's a lot going on, but it's important to think about where do you want to be? And, you know, whenever I work with people or think about, you know, the first thing I do is look at assessing where you are. You know, where exactly are you? And then where do you want to be in the future? And envisioning it clearly and concisely, because then you can develop a plan and a strategy to get there. And even though there's turmoil, you always have to look to the future and see where, you know, where you're going, and see and have a roadmap and a path. You know, maybe things are going to change as you go, but you still got to keep your eyes on the prize, because if you don't have a future goal and you're not envisioning something, any road will take you where you want to go, because it's anywhere you end up. You know, the question is this for you? Are you, you know, willing to be proactive? Are you willing to take chances? Are you willing to learn? Are you, and do things that you didn't do before? So definitely you got to figure out, is this for you, being proactive, figuring out how to thrive instead of just survive. And by doing this, it can change your life. We've helped people make more money. Not all about making money. Another big thing is having more time, being able to have a business that can run sustainably without you. Most business owners never get to a point where they can just go away and leave their business and it's still to run successfully and make around the same amount of money while they're not there. But that's really the goal of having a business. That's what allows you to have a saleable business. So the assistance and help being able to do that, decreasing stress. You know, if your business is running right and you don't have to do everything to make it run right, that decreases your stress. And then at the end of the day, by doing that, you're going to enjoy your company more and your business more, because your business is really supposed to be what helps to make your life better, rather than something that, you know, you have to worry about. You know, like we talked about, the current environment's challenging, there's opportunities. Are you up to the challenge? I'm going to talk about some strategies on how to thrive, and some valuable tools and resources we have. So at the end, I'll talk to you about a next step that you may want to consider taking, and and make an offer that could be valuable to you. So let's take a look. So, you know, why do we do this? Because everybody's impacted. We've talked a little bit more about that. But why is the best time now? You know, as we know, things are changing. Things are going to be different. So you're going to have to prepare for that. And you don't want to get left behind. You know, they talk about, you know, you've probably heard the story, you know, do you want to be the person that makes things happen? Do you want to be the person who watches things happen? Or do you want to be the person that wonders what happened? And as a business owner in business, you can't sit on the sidelines, because you're going to end up wondering what happened and you may not make it. So being more proactive, trying new things, learning new things, and learning from experience, just like learning from Michael. He's been through a situation like that and has succeeded to tell about it. And, you know, same with my experience. Everybody has highs and lows. You know, growing up, very fortunate, you know, great family. Parents was able to do well in school and actually got a Navy ROTC scholarship to attend MIT and study mechanical engineering, which was great because it's all about solving problems. And I wouldn't have necessarily studied engineering, because originally growing up, I wanted to be an architect. But in 12th grade, I got an internship working for an architect in Pittsburgh. and he was actually an architecture professor at Carnegie Mellon University. So, I was studying architecture, working with him, and, told him I wanted to go to school and study architecture. He was like, don't study architecture, study engineering, and then decide later on if you want to be an architect. And that changed the course of my life and changed my success. And surprisingly, I got to the end and really loved engineering and didn't necessarily miss being an architect. I mean, I still do some building and other stuff, but the key is having mentors, having knowledgeable people in the area and have gone through things. They can give you insight that nobody else can. So it's important to be able to get insight from people who have experience and know. There's always challenges and ups and downs. As I mentioned, I do some real estate investing, and I was fortunate enough, or really unfortunate enough, to own many properties in Florida when they had the crisis in 2007, 2008. So, Michael was dealing with saving his company. I was dealing with saving my properties in Florida, which at that time, if you don't know, Florida was the worst state as far as, properties in terms of property value. People were leaving the state. So, you didn't have renters. So it was just a really difficult time, and many people were going bankrupt. So like everybody else, experienced financial devastation. But I stayed the course. And, one of Michael Dermer's favorite quotes mentioned, if you're going through hell, keep moving. So, continue to keep moving forward, and was able to work through things over several years, but that ended up being on a condo board where more than half the units were bankrupt, and figuring out how to manage that through. And actually it's successfully a community now. They're still bouncing back, but we were able to avoid just everything falling apart and going away. Ended up having to do a short sale, a deed in lieu, and even a foreclosure. And on the deed in lieu, I got approved for it, but there was a squatter in the property, and I actually had to pay him to get out so I could do the deed in lieu. So, add injury to insult, even costed more. But I learned so much through the process, and learning how to survive, work with people, and really be creative about how you move forward. And that's what this situation's all about, is being creative and moving forward in a good way. My passion's about empowering business owners to be able to grow revenue, increase profit, and obtain financing. It's not a get rich quick scheme. People say, we're going to help you make millions, or you're going to make six figures. All that is great, but it's really continual improvement and becoming a better business person and creating a better business that's sustainable and can run without you. So as I mentioned, my goal is to help over 1,000 business owners in 2020. We created Super Tuesday as a way to provide value for entrepreneurs and business owners. I talked a little bit about that before. And also providing webinars like this for business owners as well, and then creating opportunities for business owners to develop. So, this is a little bit about Super Tuesday. We talk about key business topics that business owners need to know about, and share expertise and talk to experts about questions that the audience has. And then we have the Power Breakfast in the morning, which is more of a format of creating opportunity for people to learn best practices, build, enjoy great networking, and learn useful things. So we try and focus on providing something that you can take away immediately and put to work within your business. What do you need to do to thrive? There's really 4 key things when I look at it, in terms of you have to plan. Most businesses didn't really have a plan even before the crisis. But now it's even more important than ever to have a plan, have a strategy, think it through so that you're moving in the right direction. Another piece is marketing. Anybody who knows me and's talked to me knows that marketing is your number one job as an entrepreneur, but many entrepreneurs and business owners don't really know that. So if they're not doing marketing, well, they're not doing their most important job. So that means their business isn't going to be nearly as successful as it could be. So every day it's important to market, but what does marketing mean? How do you market? Many business owners need to learn more about that. I'm continually learning, and that's the most important job, most important thing. So being able to market more effectively is critical if you're going to survive and you're going to thrive. So first you have to plan and know what you have. And, like Michael said, you have to lay out and be structured about what you're doing and have a plan and direction. Second, you have to market effectively, because that's going to be the differentiation of you being able to bring in sales and resources and customers. And then, you're not going to be able to service and provide if you don't have the capacity to deliver on what you're marketing and selling. So you have to have the capacity in order to thrive. And the last part, because the environment is changing so much, you have to be able to track what's going on in real time, and so that you can make real time decisions. So that's where it comes into tracking, understanding your financials, looking at your numbers, having goals set, and quantitatively looking at your business. So those are the 4 keys to thrive. And I've been working with many business owners, helping them to figure that out and how to move forward. What we put together is a 1-day intensive seminar on learning how to thrive in this environment, and really focusing on those 4 key areas to prepare you to understand how to move forward with your business. So we're gonna tell you a little bit more about the 1-day intensive, but the big problem is right now, businesses are closing, and we don't want that to be yours. So there's things that you can do to hopefully alleviate that, move your business model to where it needs to be. If you're not in an area where, that you're going to be able to make it doing what you currently do, recognize that early so you can pivot. Learning how to thrive and not just survive, make money in your business. So we'll tell you a little bit about the 1-day intensive, but before I do that, I think I've got Gene Bohinski on. We've worked together on different projects. He's going to be working with me as far as providing the Thrive workshop.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, I've known Andrew for quite some time, and I can really tell you that he really knows how to help business owners. Of all the people that I've worked with in these past years, he's had a great influence on me just to see how methodical he is to help people really take their businesses to the next level and help them through every step of the process. So one of the things, a little bit about me, I own a tab of Northern New Jersey. That's the Alternative Board. That's where we bring business owners together, sort of a board of directors role, where we work on our issues and challenges together. And Andrew has been involved in that a little bit. One of the things about this Thrive program that I wanted to point out is how important it is to have a coach and have someone mentor you through the process of going through really these critical times in this planning stage and to the marketing stage, where all of you are going to need to reevaluate your business in terms of the new realities. A lot of these issues that we've talked about, and a lot of the processes and points that Michael made earlier, a lot of the times we need other people to help us to figure some of these things out. And I'll give you some examples of some of the clients that I've worked with that are looking at pivoting their businesses. One of them is an owner of a co-working space. Now, if you remember, co-working spaces have a lot of hot desks, small desks. And right now, those are totally not COVID compliant. People really want instead to have safer offices, small offices in the building. And right now, there's actually going to be a greater demand of people who want smaller offices because they don't really want to go into the city, or they might want to just, at this point, get out of their homes. So they're actually seeing that as a possible growth opportunity for small offices. So she's going to have those places reconfigured into smaller offices, and she's removing those hot desks. Another company that was doing some insulation work is now moving into providing disinfection services. And as we know, this will probably be with us for a while, and people are going to be looking at bringing someone in to clean their facilities. And there's a greater need for that type of specialty. It's just like the restaurants who've been successful. Some of the restaurants have been very successful where I live because they focused on providing delivery services and curbside pickup services. They've been aggressive at marketing them and actually going out of their way to create new services to grow their businesses. There's actually even a local company close by who is a butcher, and they've got together with Boxcar to supply their meats in packages, and that's been extremely successful for them. So I think all of us have businesses that we might have to look at the pivot points in our planning phase and what to do next. Look at the areas, maybe not necessarily revolutionary, maybe it's not getting into an entirely new business, but maybe it's really assessing our current customer base. It's asking questions of our customers, finding out how they're doing. Is there anything interesting that is coming up that they need? I was speaking today with a florist. It was a very interesting conversation. Of course, they're suffering right now because all the weddings are canceled. But she found out that all of the weddings, the people that she knows that are planning weddings, are going into small weddings. They're actually going to have 2 weddings. A mini moon, she said, was a mini moon as a wedding, and they're going to have a larger one later on. So she's actually looking at planning for an exploding year next year. So I think all of us have businesses that are going to be affected in some way. And I think at some point we're all going to need help as a sounding board. Certainly help with people like Andrew, who can really lead you through this process, right? So you can help yourself think about the potentialities of your business. Think of the ideas that might come up. Maybe it's just brainstorm sessions. But I think that's one of the main things going forward that Andrew will be targeting and talking about.
Okay. Thanks, Gene. No, definitely appreciate you
Welcome.
sharing. And exactly as Gene said, there's a lot of trends going on that you may not notice or you need to be looking for, because there's opportunities in those trends. And if you don't notice those trends, other people will. And with changing needs, wants, and desires of your customers, you need to pivot so that you can still provide them. And really, that's what it takes to be able to thrive. And that's why we want to share ways and information and knowledge and strategies for helping you be able to survive in a one-day intensive learning opportunity. So let me just tell you a little bit more about that. We've talked a lot about this. Is it okay to share a little bit about how we may be able to help you? What is this one-day intensive all about? Well, the first piece of what we're talking about is, because of the challenges you're facing, why do you need it? Because you want your business to come out stronger and better than ever. First thing is, we're going to provide an analysis of new business trends, because that's going to be the beginning of where you can figure out your strategy to thrive. So being able to know and understand what's going on, think about how, different markets and businesses are going to change. Just like right now, I'm sure that everybody has improved their skills, their computer skills and their online expertise. So that's one trend that's moving forward. Working from home, another trend, but there's a lot of trends going on. So we want to share with you our analysis of a lot of different new business trends that are going to be happening and continuing to happen. We also put together a growth readiness assessment. If you're going to grow and move forward, you need to figure out and assess, where are you? Do you have what it takes? Are there things you need to do to prepare for that? So with this growth readiness assessment, it's going to tell you, where are you strong? Where do you need to spend some additional time and energy really getting up to par so that you can grow your business? The next piece is a small business survival toolkit, because a lot of businesses are barely surviving now. And we have some tools that we've developed for businesses that can help you to be able to survive and move forward. I've been working with organizations on coaching people on being able to get access to the financial loan and grant resources. Helped a lot of people get a lot of money through those programs, but those programs, even though there's pauses between them, there's always new things coming out, always new grants, new loans. And as well, the government's already preparing to have financing available for small businesses coming out of the crisis. So, there's resources there, there's tools that we have, and, put together a crisis loan and grant opportunity guide so that you have better information about what's available, what you need to do to provide to get it, what you need to do to be eligible. So, as part of the one-day intensive, we're going to talk about, crisis loans, grants, and how to get them and what you need. In addition, put together a new revenue stream development checklist, because it's important to look at new revenue streams, look at new opportunities. So we can help you be a little bit more creative about different ways that you can potentially monetize your skills and expertise. And, really it's about a one-day Learn to Thrive, one-day intensive. We're offering quite a few things of value: analysis, assessment, the survival toolkit, the loan and opportunity guide, and then another checklist. Total value more than $750. Because this crisis, we know that a lot of people are strapped. We're going to make it available for only $147. That's less than a month of Starbucks coffee. So total value more than $750. Are you worth it? If all this did for you was help you survive the crisis, would it be worth it? If all this did for you was helped you to maintain the revenues that you previously made during 2020, would it be worth it? If all this did for you is helped you profit now and long into the future, would it be worth it? As a thank you for staying and hanging out tonight, put together a special bonus. So one bonus is my audiobook. So audiobook and more for everyone who participates in the intensive. So as a special bonus, that's one other thing you'll get. And then just as a fast action bonus, we're going to do an exclusive group coaching session for the first 5 people who register. Strategic coaching sessions can be valuable, and that'll be done by myself and Jean as well. So the first 5 people, we're going to provide that for you as well. Not only do you have the initial things, but when you add the bonuses, you're talking a value of more than $1,000. So, we talked about it being only $147, less than a month of Starbucks coffee for a value of over $1,000. But if you register now, we're going to also give you a chance to save $50. So for the intensive, it's not $147 for you. It's going to be $97 as long as you register before tomorrow night at 11 p.m. So gives you a chance. We'll send you additional information on the follow-up email. You can take a look, see what it's all about. But you know, you're getting over $1,000 of value for less than $100. And myself and Jean will be leading it and sharing valuable things to help work with you so that you can figure out the right strategy for moving forward. My goal is to provide support and help to people who need it, want it, and are willing to go after it. So, you know, I'm making it available at a rate that anyone who's looking to move forward could possibly make that investment if they see value in it. But, you know, over the year, my goal, I want to be able to reach 1,000 business owners in different ways so that they can benefit from what I've learned.
Well, the last thing I just wanted to say is for everybody listening, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to really get yourself through this crisis time with the ability to really test your ideas, get your business ready for the next level, your next level, and not only the next level, but in the new reality that we're all facing. And with Andrew, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic program, and it's certainly going to get a lot out of it.
So, thanks, Gene, and definitely look forward to working with you. We're going to have some fun. And
Well, this is going to be fun.
You know, we won't be on the beach like Gene, but
that's right.
We're going to help you to be able to understand and feel more comfortable being able to move forward, and also just really make some connections and have additional resources and know about additional resources and get access to them. So,
right.
You know, just wanted to share this with you, make it available. If you know someone else who you think could benefit from this, please don't hesitate to introduce them. Even if you don't participate in the one-day intensive, you've gotten something valuable out of this webinar this evening. And, you know other people who are in the space, so don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, you want to know any more, and you know, we'll go from there. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Have a great week. And and I didn't mention the one-day intensive. I guess you might want to know when it is. So the one-day intensive is going to be next Friday, and we're going to do an encore session next Saturday, because depending on your schedule, you may not be available on a weekday. So we're going to have it on Friday, but we're also going to have the same thing on Saturday. So, you know, as a business owner, based on your schedule, and we'll send out more details about that. And, you know, if you see it as the right fit, definitely join. So thank you very much.